Welcome back to the eSellerCafe News Roundup. I'm your host, Dave, and I'm joined once again by Richard Meldner, who has survived Irma.
Hi, how are you doing, everybody? Let's see.
Good to see you, mate. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I got electricity. I got internet.
Yeah, I was going to say, give us a brief rundown of how the last couple of days have been for you.
I'm sitting in a bunker because the house is boarded up or has shutters on it, so everything is dark, and that kind of gets to you after a while. Now I'm not sure that I could live in a basement again. But no, I mean, it was windy, it was rainy, there was times when you didn't know where the thing was going to go. You just kept looking. It's like, okay, it's going to go here, it's going to go there. But at the end of the day, I think most people here believe we got away with one a little bit again because it moved further to the west. Further to the west than initially anticipated, and then it started moving back to the east a bit. But because it hit down in Naples, I think it took a lot of the force away. Then toward the end, even so, we were on the dirty side of the storm, which is the northeastern quadrant technically, I mean, but the one thing I say with South Florida, I mean, if there's ever a place that's prepared for this kind of stuff, it's here. I know that all the news, and I've even places like BBC that are usually fairly neutral, they like to put up they put up those streets in Brickell that showed all this water flowing through it. Well, let me tell you, that was basically about probably five blocks of streets. That's it.
It's also about downtown Miami as well, and it was like, really?
That's Brickell. That's right. That's the Brickell area. That was and basically all those buildings. The bottom is all commercial, and everything above it is maybe offices and in some cases residential. So really, for the most part,
evacuated anyway. With it being a weekend.
Either evacuated or if they hung around, the rest of the building was fine, they are doing cleanup down in Miami Beach from what I saw on TV, and it's actually looking pretty good down there. The biggest question mark is going to be what's going to happen in the Keys. That's the area where they haven't had much, news crews didn't stick around for that one. And there's some, they sent some of what we call National Guard, which is our state military, basically down there to kind of take a look, and apparently going to fly some people into the airports. There are people that stuck around, including some I think one of the Monroe County, which is Keys, the administrator for that area, stuck around down there in a pretty safe building so they could do a quick evaluation and then determine what to do next. So, I mean, one thing is we've gone through this so many times that every time you go through it, you'll learn again. And the reaction, is so much quicker today. Like Daytona International Speedway, the infield was full of power trucks. Homestead Speedway, which is down in Miami, is being used for staging areas. So we have these facilities that we can use down here, and they use them, and they've learned where to put equipment and supplies so that they can get to it faster. And so when it comes to these hurricanes, it's if it's going to hit someplace, Florida is pretty well prepared to manage it.
I guess you've been through this for years. Hurricane season comes around the same time every year, and you live and learn, I guess. And like I said, your buildings are now much better than they used to be. Obviously, able to withstand higher, storms. It's always
technology helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology helps.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing drone surveillance right now. That's my understanding, because they have no communication, so they're flying drones over certain areas to see what it looks like.
And they did the same in Texas with Harvey as well, didn't they? They utilized drones there as well to see if there was people waving flags out of windows and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to go back to how much the drones make a difference. If those of you watched Katrina, so at the time then. They were flying U.S. Coast Guard helicopters, and some of the crews decided to fly before it was officially allowed to fly, or not maybe allowed to fly, but before but the guidance to fly. They were flying early because they knew there was problems, so they were flying the heavy winds saying we're going to try to do what we can. And now today, you don't have to do that. You can get drones up quickly. You can get all kinds of stuff going, you know, and get an understanding of what's going on without having to put more people at risk, that's always the big danger. You know, it's like people want to help, but you don't
at
want
what cost? Yeah,
at what cost?
Risk are you willing to put on that? Yeah, no, it is. It's obviously terrible times and like we said, obviously the keys is one thing. A couple of days earlier, we saw the devastation in Saint Martin and Bermuda, I think, as well. Barbuda, absolutely destroyed. And obviously lives have been lost, and it's incredibly sad. And it's just, you know, it's one of those things that you just have to be thankful that it could have been a lot worse at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And you know, we obviously, like we said, thanks to Florida being where it is and being used to this, that they managed to prepare. And like we said, again, we mentioned this last week, Rich, is that with hurricanes, you usually get a 4 to 5 day preparation period, don't you? And
you got a prep period, and like we talked about, and this kind of goes into some of the stories, you know. I mean, you know, start with a plan, so you know what to deviate from. I'll start with a plan, because that way you'll have something on paper and you're not making the stuff up as you go along, you know.
Exactly.
And so you know what to deviate from. Is mostly to make adjustments to the realities on the ground, so to speak. You know, the same thing recovering your business is, now, I mean, you know, I have to recover our eBay business because most of it wasn't being run from my house. So I have, you know, backups that I'm restoring and setting things up so I can do drop ships that I need to do and manage the shipments. I put pretty much everything on vacation hold myself that I was would set up to ship from here, and everything else, you know, that I could ship from somewhere else. I just let it run on eBay. And, you know, on eBay, for example, you can set things to 0 stock, you know, for a temporary. You don't have to put the whole store on vacation hold. So, you just kind of learn to do new tricks every time you go through one of these things, you know.
So I think that's actually a good segue point to go into our first news item for today, and the first couple are going to be based around Hurricane Irma, but this one came out yesterday, and it was from eBay, and it's eBay offers help to sellers impacted by both hurricanes Irma and Harvey. Now, what are eBay doing here, Richard?
Well, they're actually doing something I haven't seen them do before. They're allowing, or they're giving you credit for insertion fees, for store fees, and they're also providing you credit for promoted listings and coupons for shipping supplies. So I assume this is going to be you know, zip code based or postal code based, and if you contact them, they will, you know, you can also set if you did not put your store on vacation hold, they can work with you to do that over the phone. They're going to do things they normally don't do. But you know, if you look at the store fees, I mean, if somebody has an anchor store, that's right there. That's what, $300 a month. So it's $900 right there. Plus no insertion fees, which could be also another $1,000. I mean, you know, it's not. You know, people might look at the $30 for the promoted listings, or but if you look at the other fees, that's quite a bit. You know, and if you lose a week's worth of business because it takes you that long to get back up and running, that's some good help, you know, especially going into the Christmas season. So, you know, I think that was pretty smart of them, because they maintain their customers, they maintain their stores, which will maintain a momentum going into Christmas. So it has a benefit for them in the long run too, and it helps, you know, on the short term, and it helps those that have to put things really on hold and lost sales during this period of time, because you're getting a little bit of a break on some fees that you might have had. So
I think that's we mentioned this yesterday, Richard. You let me know about this last night, my time, probably afternoon your time, and I was just like, wow, massive hat tip to eBay on this one, because they not only was yesterday a Sunday, that they obviously, this must have come from Devin someone high up within eBay to get this authorized so quickly. And this is the thing, eBay is a huge company. They don't often do things quickly well. And they've done fantastically well here. Like I said, I would say a huge well done, and also thank you on behalf of everyone affected to eBay, because again, as we know, nothing will impact a business quicker than lack of cash flow. And by, you know, waiving store fees and insertion fees, that's a big help in cash flow. You know, like you said, if you've got anchor stores or if you've got thousands of listings, that is a considerable amount of money which can be better used to get to get the business back up and running, and whilst maybe waiting for the insurance stuff to come through if you've had any issues with stock. And like I said, also the additional $30 for promoted listings and shipping supplies might not sound a lot, but it's just it's helping you get back selling again, get back running. You know, save you if your boxes have been damaged. You know, you can get eBay boxes, they've just done what I see as everything within their power to try and help sellers affected by this. And they didn't have to do it. I've not seen anything from Amazon on this. Amazon probably still expecting Floridians to, send things out next day.
Well, I'm still waiting for my Amazon for one order of Amazon batteries I ordered before the hurricane hit.
Oh dear. Was it coming from Amazon?
Yeah.
Oh, breaking their own standards here.
Yeah, that's we'll get my month free of Prime, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you will. Yeah, I'm sure you will. But still, like I said, massive well done to eBay for that. It's a great gesture, and one that certainly hasn't gone unnoticed. Now, again, the next piece, Richard, is a piece that we actually recorded last week, and that was how basically to prepare your business for Hurricane Irma. And I guess
we don't need to go much into this. It's pretty much self-explanatory. I think the best part here is just to say, look, guys, a lot of people have gone through it. There's 6 million homes impacted by this hurricane in Florida, which is a huge number. Of course, there's going to be lots of small business owners among that group. Watch that video that we did. If even if you don't live in a hurricane zone, watch it, because we talk about other things in other areas that are really good to know.
That's it. It's not just hurricanes. Could be forest fires, earthquakes, tsunami, whatever. Any sort of natural disaster. Preparation is the sort of message there. But also, Richard's given some fantastic advice in that video for post emergencies as well, post disaster. So again, if you're in that situation right now, there's some great advice about steps you should be taking going forward in order to get back up and running as quickly as possible. So again, check that out. Again, all the links that we talk about, as always, are in the description below. Just click show more underneath this video and you'll see all the links there. Now, on to the main sort of news bits outside of Hurricane Irma. We have Kohl's embraces Amazon to drive store traffic. What's going on with Kohl's and Amazon?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because kind of sort of came out of left field. Although there had been some rumors that Amazon might be looking at buying, into like a Nordstrom's or something like that, or Kohl's or whatever. But obviously, after Amazon purchased Whole Foods, everybody thinks Amazon's going to buy the next big, chain. And the reality is that I think this is mostly trying to experiment a little bit with working with one of the largest department stores in the country to see if you can do some kind of synergy here. Kohl's has, I think, 1,100 stores. They're doing this in 10 stores, so it's not like it's a huge rollout of some kind. It's clearly an experiment. It's a 1,000 square foot boutique type store that they're setting up in the store. So there's going to be Amazon Fire tablets, Amazon Echo devices, and mostly Amazon branded stuff is what they're going to show and display. They're also going to offer installation services. I'm not sure that you really need them for Fire and Echo products, but who knows? Maybe they're thinking of other stuff down the road, and effectively just trying to bring this, allow Kohl's to maybe get some store traffic from this. So my first question when I wrote this was like, well, what is Amazon's gain here? Because they're getting their product into lots of hands. Do they really need to be at a Kohl's? And my thinking is that maybe there are some brands, and I did put them in the article. There's some good name brands that Kohl's owns that are associated with a couple of them, like with Tony Hawk and stuff, like, with celebrities.
The fashion stuff.
That fashion stuff that might find their way then eventually onto Amazon if this works. So I don't see there being some kind of big takeover or purchase, but there might be more of a kind of a Sears agreement, where you sell a brand and then that helps the retailer at the same time because they own that brand. So we might see something like that, considering, I mean, let's face it, Amazon owns the fashion world right now. When it comes to online sales, and why would somebody like Kohl's not potentially do that? So I think that's where this might be heading to some extent, but we'll see. It's a little early days on this one.
It is curious because, like we mentioned again, it's probably a couple of months ago now, there was talk of the deal that they did. Was it with Sears? Is it Kenmore product?
Yeah, correct. Kenmore,
they do seem to be making much more of an impact in the bricks and mortar stores, if not Amazon stores. They're just jumping on the bandwagon with other, sort of Kohl's now and Sears, and just spread. Again, it's that whole, one way or the other, you will deal with Amazon. They don't care if you buy online. You'll use one of our products somewhere, and then we'll get you into the ecosystem, and you'll love it. So again, it's a curious one to see how that goes. With
and then the other thing is, obviously, on that news of 10 stores, Kohl's went up by 2% on the stock market.
Of course, once again, Amazon, the big stock market influencer. It is incredible. Anyway, with that, I'm just keeping on the Amazon news. This one sort of along the lines of Shopify. Shopify have made selling on Amazon easier. Now, I'm going to assume that this sadly isn't news, that the Amazon sell on Amazon thing with Shopify is now global. So what is the news from Shopify and Amazon?
Well, the news is the integration. We know that, like, just a few weeks ago, they upped the ante with the eBay integration. So now they've upped the ante with the Amazon integration. I believe it was only clothing and accessories was the only category that was integrated natively or through this app. I guess not natively, but through the app that Shopify manages and operates into the system, or into the Amazon system. So they now have added health and household, beauty and personal care, home and kitchen, patio and garden, sewing, arts and crafts, sports and outdoors, toys and games. I mean, pretty much all the other big ones that sell a lot, and that clearly shows that Shopify is trying to be multi-channel software. They're trying to expand their reach into the two biggest marketplaces with eBay and Amazon. So it's just another one of those things, I hate to say it. What are the other guys doing that are in that SaaS environment? They are lagging a little bit behind.
Shopify are absolutely killing it right now. And if you look at any statistics on Shopify's growth, even just over the last couple of years, absolutely dominant. And I mean, a big one there, toys and games. This is just for toy and game sellers, this is just the best news if you're using Shopify, or even if you're not, if you're wondering which platform to use, this is just got even better. You're coming into your total prime shopping period,
and you effectively can turn on an entire sales channel immediately.
That's it, absolutely. And I believe, I can't remember when it is, historically Amazon turn off new toy and game sellers from starting on, I think it's mid-October. So you still should, I don't hold me on this, but usually everyone tries to jump on the toy and game bandwagon, so they cut it off early. But I'm pretty sure right now you can still open up a toy and game store. So again, now through Shopify, it's made even easier. Like I said, the big thing for me with Shopify is as soon as they open the Amazon and eBay applications to run globally, and on pounds and Australian dollars, I think, and euros as well, obviously, it's that could be a huge game changer for a lot of people. And like you said, I think the other SAS guys really need to start innovating again. They need to be doing something. Shopify crushing it right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're going to see that from Shopify next year. I mean, there's actually Canadian sellers that are complaining, why you're doing this all in the U.S. market. Well, because the U.S. market is the largest one. You know?
Makes total sense. If I was Shopify, I'd be doing that too. Of course, you go after the US market first.
So the Canadian market might be the next one where they're going to go to just to experiment with the
maybe. I mean, the Canadian market isn't
very big.
Obviously,
the UK market, I guess, is the biggest one. After
UK would be next, then potentially Germany, and then Australia, but then Canada probably after that. But obviously, Shopify, Canadian company, got to keep the natives happy. So I would get it as well. I would totally get why they would do that as well. But yeah, massive. Again, well done, Shopify. You're absolutely killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now on to, I'm still undecided about this. Fill your cart with color. But this is obviously the news that the eBay campaigns are now in the UK and Australia. The fill your cart with color campaigns. What are your thoughts on it, Richard? I mean, I'm not sold on what they're trying to tell me here.
Well, they're trying to tell you that they're a hip, colorful marketplace, and they're not Amazon beige, is what they're basically trying to convey.
Okay. The brown boxes, the yellow logo. I see.
Yeah. They're really. This is sort of I think this is a little of a slight swing at Amazon in some ways. I mean, let's face it, they're basically globalizing their marketing strategies with this. That makes sense. Even so, we spell color differently than you guys spell color.
It's very true. You guys spell it wrong, remember?
We spell it wrong. So at the same time, the Fill Your Cart with Color campaign is an older campaign here that there's now being replaced with something newer for Christmas, but it's coming then back for Christmas from what I remember from the eBay Open. It's just they are trying to do more global. It's kind of the same way Coke and others do it. They have these global campaigns. And
the Coke truck. Do you get that? Do you get that in America?
Which one?
The Coke truck. They have the big red truck with Coca-Cola on it, and the song which says "Holidays are coming." As soon as you see the Coke truck, you know it's Christmas. You don't have it. Oh, it must be a UK thing.
Yeah, we have the Budweiser. We have the Budweiser horses, the Clydesdales.
Oh yeah, I love the Budweiser adverts as well. But the Coke one is just so symbolic here of Christmas. And they actually, I think, a few years ago, started doing the Coke truck tour. I guess about the Amazon truck, but just people wanted to have the picture taken with the Coke truck. Google it if you're in the US and don't know about the Coke truck. TV adverts been going on ever since I was a kid, so 20+ years. But that would make a lot of sense, because here's a little anecdote about Coke. And Google this one. The perception that most of us have of the Santa Claus comes from Coca-Cola, because it comes from late 1800s Coca-Cola. Because wasn't he originally in green? Was it a German green or something?
Yeah, it was originally completely different, and the whole red.
I know. Yeah, I've heard that. It's fun. I've not read into it, but I've definitely heard that.
Yeah, it's all based
Coke
on
made Father Christmas red. Yeah,
it's all Coca-Cola.
But yeah, I mean, going back onto topic here, the eBay Fill Your Cart with Color thing is. And this comes back again a few months ago now. We spoke about how eBay were moving away from the sort of the doing listing promotions and 100 free listings. They stopped doing all that sort of stuff, and instead said they were going to put a lot of budget into marketing. And my God, eBay are everywhere right now in the UK. They're on doing TV adverts, which I'll put my hands up. They are pretty good for TV. I'm not a big fan of TV adverts, but they got my attention, and I remember the advert. Radio, they're on a lot of the main radio channels now. So if I'm in the car, eBay are sponsoring different events, not only just like adverts, but they're also sponsoring events that the radio shows are hosting themselves. Billboards, bus sign on the side of buses, they are everywhere right now. And literally, I cannot imagine how many millions eBay have spent on this marketing campaign, but it's certainly in their millions here in the UK. And like you said, it's the whole patchwork color thing. Fill your cart with color is the slogan. It's huge. I mean, I imagine it's going to be the same in Australia. If they've done it anywhere near as big as they've done it here in the UK, it's hard to miss.
Well, in Australia is important for them because they are looking down the path of seeing Amazon is going to be arriving.
The Amazon hurricane is about to hit Australia.
Yeah. Hurricane Amazon. Yeah, no, it's definitely coming down that way, and so and eBay has done a very good job in Australia, and they're going to try to defend their turf, and so that's clearly going to be on their mind, and I think that's part of the reason why they're doing this campaign at the same time. Because it's different, it's interesting to me. It's like, here's 30-second commercials, so 60-second commercials. I think the commercials in the UK are 40 seconds, and I think the ones in Australia was another different length.
Right.
So they're all, it's the same footage. They just
condense it down, or whatever.
Yeah, change the spelling.
Stick a U in. Yeah,
stick a U in. So
so it's very curious. Obviously, eBay are putting they really are ramping up their marketing national here in the UK, like literally in small towns that I was at over the weekend. They had eBay like billboards, and I'm like, wow, it's not even just in big cities, it's in the outskirts as well. They really have gone big on this. And this leads me to think, is this just the beginning of their run up to Christmas? Are we going to see the eBay pop-up shop once again on Oxford Street in London? I've never been to it. I've obviously been up here in Manchester. Are we going to see more of them across the UK? I don't know, but right now it seems like eBay's like big thing is everybody needs to see eBay. Wherever you are, however, we want to make sure eyeballs are seeing eBay for whatever reason, in whatever medium that you are choosing. Again, I've seen eBay sponsored ads on Instagram, and it's like even taking over social media. They really are going after the whole, sort of, there doesn't seem to be any generic targeting here. It's like, if you're a person with eyeballs, we want you to know about eBay. So, who knows? Well, interesting to see where they take it over the next few weeks and months for sure.
Absolutely.
Next up, Amazon. We're heading over to the Middle East. Amazon doubles down on Middle East with wing.ae. Wing.ae, what's this? I've not heard of this one.
Yeah, it was. I didn't hear of it either, but it's a fairly new company. 2016, they started out. Apparently, got some money from Souk. So my guess is that. Well, let's start out with what they are. They are a courier delivery service that actually was working with other e-commerce sellers in the Middle East to do next day or same day delivery services. So kind of a little bit like a deliver to some extent, or deliv, which is what you're going to talk about here shortly. And so from that point of view, it seems like, I think what Amazon just did is since there was some investment made, let's just shore up this investment, make sure these people will work with us by owning them. That makes, probably relatively cheap at this point to own them. They clearly worked on a lot of technology behind the scenes, because it seems to me they're mostly working with independent couriers to get this done. So it's sort of a crowdsourced a courier service. I mean, it's just an expansion of the whole Middle East program for them. And it was the right thing to do, considering there was already a relationship in place since the beginning of wing.ae, was formed both with Souk. So it just showing up the area and the loose ends, I guess. I mean, what couldn't have cost them much to buy this company. This is probably not even sure the budget line item on P&L here.
It'll be in the other category. So that's curious.
Probably spend more money on their. They probably spend more money on their space rockets than they have on this.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. So this is curious, because obviously we saw them take sort of buy Souk, and now they've gone after wing.ae as well. They really are sort of, like you said, doubling down on their presence in the Middle East, and like you said, maybe readying for Prime. Is this, for me, there was still a lot of logistical questions about the Middle East and how easy you'd be able to get deliveries across, from Qatar to Abu Dhabi, Dubai. There is obviously good. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, and then we have to also say here that, you know, when we hear Middle East, we always think of like Libya and Egypt or Algeria and places like that. We're talking about the Gulf states here. This is mostly what this involves. I don't think anybody has currently a solution how to do next day delivery to Syria. You know, so I think that's going to be a little way.
Be a brave postman.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so again, we're sort of the general, when we say Middle East, when it comes to e-commerce right now, the sort of countries we're largely looking at, it's the likes of Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. They're the sort of main players here. Basically, the very, very wealthy countries. Yeah. And that brings on to our next point, which was the Middle East e-commerce opportunity is growing. And again, it makes a lot of sense as to why business, you know, why Amazon especially and other businesses would be looking to target the Middle East, because that's where there is a lot of money. There's a lot of people there who have the ability to buy things, also have the means to buy things, but not necessarily the ability to buy things. You know, that they don't, and it's exactly the same as what happened with Australia before. Obviously, eBay Australia was a thing. They had very limited access to products. And then eBay came along and basically blew cross-border trade open, and all of a sudden, Australia had all this selection from around the world, which they'd never seen before, much to the dismay of the Australian local businesses. They were now competing across the world. And that seems to be the next opportunity in the Middle East, is that we have, again, some very wealthy countries. Obviously, Qatar is the wealthiest in the world. And then obviously Bahrain is up there, Abu Dhabi, and the UAE as a whole is a very wealthy region. But only 15% of businesses in those regions are actually active in e-commerce. You know, you go to, again, my parents were in Dubai a few months ago, and they said like they had this huge shopping mall, and they even have like vending machines where you can buy gold bars. It's like next level wealth over there, and you know, people buying in gold as if that's a thing. But that says that, you know, whilst they have that money, they don't have the actual means. You know, there's a whole wealth of products which they cannot buy, and they'd love to buy, I'm sure, but they just don't have the means to actually get them. And this is where the e-commerce opportunity in the Middle East is so exciting. You know, because it's just you've got a whole area of people with money in their pockets wanting to buy products which they just can't get their hands on locally. So
and I can tell you from my business, from my experience with car parts, we sold quite a few pistons and other parts to the Middle East, because there was a growing trend of people working on cars and buying American cars and wanting to soup them up. So they were buying, you know, on eBay and having them. And there was actually there's a couple of companies that operate out of Ohio, and I think there might be one here in Florida, where you ship it to those addresses and then they forward it over to the Middle East, so it doesn't have to go through, you know, the postal system. But some of the addressing over there is kind of confusing, and some people don't understand it, and then they don't put it down the right way, and it doesn't end up where it's supposed to go. But in any case, you know, so there was a tremendous amount of, you know, those people that were connected and maybe looking for things were looking outside. So this is a way to bring it back home again, so to speak. And then there's another interesting phenomenon, reading through some of it, which is going to be really interesting culturally speaking over the next few years with them, is, you know, typically a lot of those places, and we don't want to get into big into politics or religion here, but they don't give the same freedom to women. But yet some of these areas that are growing on e-commerce are actually in fashion and things like that. So so that's going to be interesting to see how that builds up. You know, is that going to change the culture? You know, is there going to be a little bit of a millennial, so to speak, you know, a more modern Western kind of Middle Easterner, if you want to call it that, versus you know, traditional. You know, I don't know. It's definitely going to change the area, but there's opportunity there, and I think if Amazon can take advantage of the opportunity, and if it also opens up doors for sellers in the US or in Europe to be able to put products into the Middle East without having to worry about shipping them from their countries, but being able to use marketplace setup. That's good. You know, that's good for everybody. So I think it's definitely an area that we're going to see a lot of growth in, and people need to stop looking at the traditional problem areas, you know, wars and whatever else, but look at the area where the money is, because that's where right now all this is focused, you know.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think the person who can successfully answer the logistics problem, of just delivery out there, getting a native sort of delivery system in place. That same person, whoever can bring that to the Philippines as well, is going to be a very wealthy man. Because again, when me and Matt were out there a few years ago, we said this as well. It's like e-commerce, they get it. They get how it works, but it's just that their infrastructure is just not set up for it. You know, the Philippines got loads of islands, and you know, the delivery aspect of it would be a pain. But and also the credit system as well. A lot of people still want to pay cash for things. So again, there's a few questions, but I think as soon as these questions get answered, e-commerce is just going to boom again. And the same with South America. There's so much potential still globally. That we
maybe Amazon will open up like a little shop in one of those malls, and you pick the gold bar you buy from the machine, take it over there, and deposit it to their account.
And it works off the current gold rate to add it into your Amazon account. Can you imagine? Anyway, enough about the ludicrousy of wealth in the Middle East. Next up, we've got Deliv expands its operations to challenge Amazon's Prime Now. So Deliv, this is an interesting sort of a crowdsourced operation which is set up, and it is focusing on the same day delivery question. And here in the UK, the Amazon is pretty much, I mean, funnily enough, I bought something this morning which is going to be with me this evening. So again, same day delivery is very convenient. Amazon do a fantastic job at it. And there's not many people currently who can compete with them when it comes to same day delivery. There was those guys that eBay partnered with, and I've forgotten the name of. Really nice. Shuttle, that was it. Really nice. I again met them at a conference before they got bought out. Met the CEO guy, who's a really cool guy. So eBay bought Shuttle, and then nothing really happened with it. So there's not a huge competition with Amazon right now for same day delivery, although more and more people now want same day delivery as an option. It just drives them to Amazon because that's where they can get it. Now Deliv is, and again, keeping on same day delivery, that's even more of a challenge in the US just due to the geographic nature of, you know, getting things over vast distances. So Deliv is, again, it's a US operation from what I gather. Currently, what started off in 19 markets, now it's expanded up to 33, and they're looking to basically take on Amazon. Again, what are your thoughts on Deliv, Richard, as a company idea?
Yeah, it's I think for some people it's going to be pretty good if you have your own stock and you can service the local area really well with something like that. That's good. You know, I think one of the backbones of Amazon's push in the US, which makes it work for them with the 2-day delivery or the next day delivery so much at such ridiculously low prices or free, is the fact that they have all these warehouses and they have stock all over the country. And that's going to be the big challenge, because Deliv can't provide that unless they're going to start a fulfillment network where they say, well, send us all the product and we will fulfill from our warehouses. But it sounds like they're kind of more like an Uber or Lyft for packages, you know. So and then obviously Uber and Lyft are trying to get into that market segment as well. And we already know that Walmart is experimenting with Uber in a couple markets and in that. So there's a demand for it, and maybe Deliv sees that they might be able to work with a bigger player, such as maybe not a Walmart or a Target, but someone like a dollar store or something in that area that could offer, where they have, you know, these stores and you can deliver from there. It'll be interesting to see where it goes, and obviously if they can build enough of a network of larger companies that they work for where they can offer this type of service, that then can help the smaller businesses you know, at least take advantage of the services within their regions, you know. So Americans are not, I don't think that they're local shoppers anymore when it comes to e-commerce. I don't think they look at local. As a matter of fact, many of them look at, well, okay, where can I buy so I don't have to pay sales tax, because it comes from out of the state, I don't have to pay sales tax, And,
I like it.
And that's, I mean, it's actually a shopper that tries to save money by not paying tax. So that's going to be the bigger challenge, and you already have food delivery people like Grubhub and others, so it's not like an area that they can go into. So they're kind of trying to find themselves a niche, and I get that, but I'm but then there's the big guys like Uber or Lyft. Is it possible they maybe just setting themselves up as a purchase target for an Uber or Lyft that just says, hey, look, we have this already set up, and this is how we do the logistics, and it's how we do it, and then Uber or Lyft goes in and just buys that and says, okay, now we're making it Uber to live, whatever. That could be too.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and it's one of those which, again, I applaud people who trying to do exciting things, new and innovative things with same-day delivery or anything. That's sort of the advancement of e-commerce as a whole. I think it's a good thing. Competition is always a good thing. Keeps people pushing and striving for greater things. So we'll keep an eye on Deliv and see what what sort of impact.
I think they need a logistics backbone for this to really compete against Amazon's FBA, and I think that's the piece that's missing. I
think that's the piece which,
at least in the US,
will be missing for a lot of people.
Well, it's something like, someone like DH. I mean, maybe not DHL, but they could do too. They have a couple warehouses now, but maybe a FedEx or UPS or someone like that. There's fulfillment people that have multiple warehouses across the country. Maybe one of them will say, hey, look, we can get together and build something here where we shuttle, do fulfillment from different locations, because that would then truly become a different delivery network, and that would be really exciting to see, a crowdsourced competitor to UPS and FedEx that can manage the fulfillment warehouses, and therefore you can offer a 1 or 2 day delivery from virtually anywhere in the United States if you're willing to put your product in those warehouses.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So on to the next point, and the next news story was more. It's not really a surprise to anyone. It's just an interesting one, I think, for the numbers, really. It should be no surprise that global parcel volume has increased. Pitney Bowes, who are an e-commerce solutions experts, have done a study on the increase of global parcels. And it's unsurprising that parcel volume has grown to 65 billion in 2016, which was up from 44 billion in 2014. So a 48% increase.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, huge jump. And it shows no signs of slowing down. And I guess it's not going to slow down. As the more, like we've said before, it's a generational shift. Older people who do not shop online are dying out and being replaced by the younger generation who are, born with an iPad in their hands. They basically get e-commerce from day one. As soon as they're old enough, they can buy online. So it's not only a generational shift, but also, like we just talked about with the Middle East, it's a global shift. Obviously we start turning the Middle East onto e-commerce. We turn Australia on even more when Amazon comes along. We then look at South America, potentially, the Far East, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, huge countries, huge populations. And as soon as all those people get online and start being able to buy things, there's going to be parcels everywhere. So again, this shouldn't be a shock to anyone. It's more a case of highlighting just how fast and how big this growth is.
And this is highlighted from, like, if you look back 2 months ago when UPS said we're going to start doing Saturday delivery for ground packages in the United States. I mean, this is something that they've resisted for 100 years. So all of a sudden they are going to do something that is just incredibly just not them. FedEx had been doing it on Saturdays with ground with the home deliveries for 10-15 years now, and even their largest competitor hadn't moved them to consider that till I think finally they just realized, if we're not going to do this, we're going to be really left behind, and that's and now you wonder, who will be the next big courier company to say we're going to do Sunday deliveries. I mean, let's face it, the post office is already doing it for Amazon, specifically. And I'll get to a little anecdote there. It's like, on Thursday here, I think it was, when I got the Amazon delivery from the postman, I talked with him. He goes, I said, so I'm the only one that ordered, hurricane supplies to Amazon. And he goes, oh no, there were 16 pallets arrived that we didn't know we were getting. Stuff that was directly delivered to them from Amazon, because that's how Amazon does it. They take it effectively directly to, and he says, including sandbags and things. I mean, he said one of the postal couriers had sandbags because it was hard to find sandbags around here. So somebody went on Amazon on Monday, I guess, and ordered sandbags to for the hurricane. And so the amount of so the next question is, is the post office maybe, one time they talked about maybe only delivering from Monday through Friday to reduce costs here in the U.S. And now with this Amazon deal, they're doing Saturday, Sunday. Might they be looking at doing expanding to Sunday delivery? So that's just going to increase the amount of parcels, and that's using the hurricane story here a little bit just to indicate how much. I mean, including myself, it's like, well, I need some extra batteries just in case. Yes, one didn't show up. No big deal. I knew it was going to be a Hail Mary, but everything else I ordered showed up. And so I saved myself hours of wandering around the local area trying to find certain things that I thought about. Maybe I should have had this or that, just because the size of the storm, So at the end of the day, we're all just getting we're getting so used to the system that's just going to drive parcel numbers up. There's just no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And again, from the article, again, link in the description below, they're saying they expect it to continue to rise by 17 to 28% from the year 2017 to 2021. So again, huge further growth, not slowing down, and the implementation of robotics and same-day delivery, as we mentioned before, are only just going to help increase that number even further. So global parcel delivery, it's only going up. Anyone who thought that e-commerce had reached its peak, I think it's only just beginning.
Yeah. Exactly.
So on to the final news story of this episode, and it is a piece that I wrote, actually, which is what Apple needs now more than ever, the one more thing. And this is in relation to tomorrow being Amazon, sorry, not Amazon, everything else is bloody Amazon. Apple, about Apple's conference, which they hold around this time every year. And this is going to be the conference where they announce no doubt, the iPhone 8 and rumors of something called the iPhone X. Who knows what that is? But the main reason for this article was the piece around innovation. Because you think back to, again, we published a post last week about Huawei and the technology they were using with AI in their phones, not just inbuilt, also cloud AI as well, to help with all sorts. Basically AI can help in a number of ways. And Samsung continued to do, bits of innovate. They did the wireless charging. Then we've got Google with a Pixel doing things with the camera, which hadn't been done before. And it's, where has the innovation gone from Apple? Because we think back to 2007, about 10 years ago, when Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone. Famously, the very next day, again, there's a link in the article which says the Google team that were actually working on Android back then, that they watched the Apple conference and the unveiling of the iPhone. The next day, they scrapped everything they'd worked on because it looked so dated compared to what Apple had just released. And it then took Android another 2 to 3 years to release something that was in somewhat competitive. So Apple had that 3 years worth of advantage, a bit like Amazon have done with the Echo smart speaker. They had a good 2-year run before anyone else had done a smart speaker. Where has that innovation gone? You think back about the Macintosh, the iPod Nano, the iPod Touch, the iPhone, iTunes, all these innovative things which have become part of the iPad, have become part of everyday life, and have been copied by thousands of others. We've not seen that ever since Steve Jobs passed away. And that's left the door wide open for the likes of Google, Samsung, Huawei, OnePlus even, to really get involved in the iPhone market and to push the boundaries on things that Apple aren't doing. And all which I've really seen Apple do in recent years with the phone is to make the screen slightly bigger, make the battery then slightly bigger, not to give you any better battery life, just to try and compete with the fact that they've got a bigger screen. And take away a headphone jack, put a better camera in. What's innovation there? I'm not sure. I'm just... sorry, Richard. Go on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You look at what like eBay released. It's like we're going to do image search, and ASOS or whatever it's called. I'm sorry, in the UK, they're doing image search. All these things are going to require some kind of processing on a device, and Apple seems to be more interested in the entertainment side of it, which, okay, that's important, but you know what? People have moved on from the entertainment. If you look at tablet usage on the internet today, it's hardly non-existent. I mean, it's what, 4 or 5%. I mean, I look at our log files, I can tell you it's less than 5% of people get our website with tablets. It's, yes, they're entertainment devices, but they're not usable for, excuse me, for e-commerce. And yet that's where the growth now is going to be. There's only so many movies, so many TV shows, so much content you can create as far as entertainment is concerned. People only have so much time to watch something, and it becomes a very competitive marketplace. But people need to buy things, and you can make it easy to buy something, whether it's shoes, whether it's clothing, or whatever, because you're now doing image search. And that's where, if you look at the Android system, they seem to be, at least, maybe because it's a more open system, people can play with it more and put more hardware to it. Obviously, with iOS, everything is sort of together and it has to work with each other, and that's great and that's simple and that's fine. But at some point, this innovation that's happened on the e-commerce side, I mean, it's going to run way ahead of what Apple is putting out there hardware-wise to utilize that innovation. I mean, I don't think Apple yet with Siri has any kind of shopping integration.
Not as far as I know. Not as far as I know. But like you said, they're going to have to do something with it. And I'm sure, with the HomePod, it's another also RAM product. Again, 3 years after Amazon released, the Echo. Well done. You've copied them and put a bigger speaker in it. You'll be able to play, maybe tell the HomePod to stream a film to your Apple TV or to play a song through your iPod, whatever. But, it's not innovation. Like you said, the e-commerce piece is lacking. And
remember, Microsoft sat on a lot of money and started to not do anything. They figured, we own everything, not a problem. We will just continue. And then all of a sudden, Amazon found themselves in the also-ran category because they just sat on the money. They figured we have money, we have the business customers. That's all we need. And then slowly but surely, Google was taking away some of them. Amazon was taking away through the AWS. Oh, wait a second. Now we need to build a cloud. And they had to throw everything, virtually scrap everything they were doing to go 100% into the cloud, because that's where everything was heading.
So it's subscription models for Office and, rather than buying discs. Yeah, they had to adapt. And I think that's the thing, is that we're not used to seeing this from Apple. They were always they were the people that we looked to for the innovation.
Yeah.
They were excited. It's like, what's Apple going to do now? What's the next thing? And that's the thing, is what's, the famous Steve Jobs, one more thing. I've got one more thing. And I think we need that more than ever, or Apple needs that more than ever in order to stay relevant. I mean, that's probably too harsh. Like you said, they're sat on a mountain of cash, incredibly, incredibly cash-rich business. I mean, they bought Beats for $1 billion. They're clearly not shy of money.
No, and they are definitely wanting to be an entertainment style company.
And, you know, and obviously they bought Carpool Karaoke, and, you know, they're doing the entertainment thing, which is great. That's fine. But, you know,
and I think there was a story last week that them and Amazon are fighting over the James Bond franchise rights now. So,
really?
yeah, so I think that, you know, that's what it's gotten down to now. Now is Apple going to look at content production? Because that's almost what it sounds like. You know, now they got to.
Yeah, I mean, that's Netflix have done fantastically well with Netflix originals. Amazon doing the same. You know, Jeff Bezos came out last week and said he wants to make the next Game of Thrones, the next thing, which is going to be a global phenomenon. You know, and yeah, you can totally get why they'd want to do that. But again, that's you know, for Netflix, yeah, that's the entirety of their business. For Amazon, that's just one little spoke on the Amazon wheel. And it should be the same for Apple. But, you know, the entertainment piece, the iTunes pice, you know, that media piece should be one little spoke on the wheel. The thing which always made them a lot of money was the devices. And I think, you know, they played a very clever game years ago. They tied people in to the Apple network, you know, everything just works so nicely together. iOS is great. iTunes can manage everything. But, you know, the thing that I noticed when, you know, I moved to Android is, I can just plug it into a computer, and I can actually access all the files, and I can, you know, click and drag things around. I can actually click and drag music into my phone rather than have to buy it through iTunes. You know, that amount of freedom is what I think a lot of people are realizing Android has, rather than having to, you know, tie you into this Apple ecosystem. And I think people are, you know, unless you give them a reason to stay, they're now looking for reasons to leave.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there will be a follow-up article, whether it be tomorrow, more likely Wednesday, about will we see the one more thing from Apple? I sadly don't think we will. But I'd love it if we did, but I cannot see it. If they've done the best job ever of keeping a secret from getting leaked, I'd love it. I'd love for them to be, you know, to just smash into the market with something unbelievable and have a Steve Jobs moment. But I don't think we're going to see it. And I think that's one of the biggest shames with Apple's innovation recently. And, you know, an example of why you have to innovate or slowly die, I guess. Don't be complacent.
Right.
So, with that said, that's the end of the news this week. To give you a quick summary, once again, of what we've covered. We covered, obviously, Hurricane Irma and Harvey. And then the fantastic gesture by eBay that they announced yesterday came out and was giving you 3 months off store fees, insertion fees, give you some promoted listings as well as some shipping supplies. Great gesture by eBay, one that, you know, they didn't have to do, but has been, again, me and Richard both think they've done a fantastic job there. We also have the replay about how to prepare for natural disasters such as Hurricane Irma. Check that out as well. We then talked about Kohl's, how they're embracing Amazon to drive store traffic. We talked about Shopify, making it easier to sell on Amazon. Again, Shopify absolutely smashing it right now. We talked about the Fill Your Cart with Colour campaign that has been eBay's marketing campaign across the UK and Australia. I've seen them everywhere. They really have spent millions, I imagine, on this. And then we talked about the Middle East, how Amazon had been doubling down, and they'd acquired wing.ae, and also the e-commerce opportunity that is growing out in the Middle East, and how some of the richest countries in the world are still waiting to be tapped into the e-commerce market. Only 15% of businesses out in the Middle East are currently e-commerce ready. So again, huge opportunity there. We then talked about Deliv, a new sort of crowdsourced startup, which looking to bring same-day deliveries to the USA, competing directly with Amazon. And then we talked about, obviously, global parcel volume is increasing. It's not a surprise. It's more we want to highlight just how quickly and how big it was growing. We shared with you some numbers, and again, pretty impressive stuff. And finally, Apple, does it need one more thing? Me and Richard both seem to think it does, but we both seem to think we're not going to see it tomorrow, which would be a shame. I think it's needed. Everyone else is innovating in fantastic ways. Apple seems to have been very quiet over recent years. We'll find out more this week. So with that said, I want to take time to thank you for watching this e-commerce news roundup with myself, Dave, and of course, Richard as well, who managed to brave Irma. He survived. Richard versus Irma, and Richard won.
Richard 1, Irma 0.
So again, thank you so much as well for being able to join us, Richard. I was preparing to do this one alone or with Matt, but thankfully, Richard.
Yeah, we've been in contact the whole time. He's like,
yeah, we were talking all day yesterday, weren't we? It was great. And I think the only thing that you noticed was your main internet went down, but then you just hotspotted your phone and everything was fine.
Yeah, I mean, the article on eBay was actually put up in the middle of Irma.
There you go. Richard sent me the article, and I said, "Do you want me to get this out now?" And he went, "I've just hit publish." I was like, oh. All right then. Okay, so yeah, massive well done, Richard, for that continued dedication there.
It's been kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's been a fun one. It's been it should not been a fun one at all.
Yeah,
the way you've handled it has been fantastic. So again, anyone who has been affected by Irma or Harvey or any of the forest fires going on around the world, our thoughts are with you. Again,
absolutely.
It's one of those things.
We'll be looking at some of the other marketplaces, see what they offer for people that are impacted by these, see if they're going to do anything, and if
absolutely, I imagine there's got to be some response to what eBay's led the way with here. I'd be surprised if like some Etsy or Amazon didn't do something.
And Etsy did do, just so we reiterate, because last week we had
of course,
Etsy did, with Harvey did already do something, so we'll see what they will come, probably something similar with Irma, especially since they're more so the artist community, and a lot of people in the Keys fall in that category. So I think we'll see something there. But yeah, it'd be nice to see if Amazon will step up with something as well for its marketplace sellers. That would be great to see as well. So we'll keep up with that and see if something pops, and we'll put it on the site.
As always, we will keep you up to date with the latest goings on across e-commerce all into next week. So again, eSellerCafe.com. Keep your eye on it. Subscribe to the the email news list. Hit the allow notifications. You'll be kept up to date with all the news as and when it happens. So. Again, thank you so much for taking time to join us. We'll be back with you next week. And with that said, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one. And we'll see you next Monday.
See you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.